The arrival of the undefeated. The massive Caldari Dominion flagship, unconquerable, emerged from the darkness beyond Neptune, its obsidian hull absorbing the distant sunlight. Behind it followed 300 sleek warships, arranged in perfect geometric formations that had never needed to break in the face of enemy fire. Admiral Vexus stood on the command bridge, his scaled skin gleaming under the blue light panels, 4 arms clasped behind his back in a posture of absolute confidence. "Begin the standard approach," he ordered, his voice a low rasp, "and prepare the diplomatic transmission. Let us see if these humans are wise enough to surrender." The Caldari had conquered 17 worlds in the last century. None had resisted for more than 3 standard cycles. Their military excellence was legendary, their technology superior, their discipline absolute. Earth would be just another entry in their glorious expansion. At Earth Defense Command Headquarters in Geneva, Commander Maya Chen stared at the holographic display showing the approaching Caldari fleet. Her dark eyes reflected the red warning markers appearing throughout the solar system. Military officials from every nation stood in tense silence as sensor data streamed in. "They've passed the Kuiper Belt defense grid without even slowing down," announced Colonel Takeru from his station. "Our automated systems didn't even scratch their hulls." Maya sighed, brushing a strand of black hair from her face. She had spent 15 years preparing Earth for this moment. 15 years since humanity discovered they weren't alone in the galaxy. 15 years knowing that sooner or later the Caldari would come. "Open all communication channels," she ordered. "Let's hear what they have to say." The central screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Vexus. His reptilian features were imposing. 4 amber eyes set in a face covered with iridescent scales, a mouth full of sharp teeth that didn't move entirely in sync with his translated words. "People of Earth," the Admiral began, "I am Admiral Vexus of the glorious Caldari Dominion. We have studied your civilization and determined you are not yet ready for independent membership in the galactic community. Surrender now and accept our guidance. Resist, and we will demonstrate why no world has ever successfully opposed us." The screen shifted to show recordings from other worlds, cities burning under orbital bombardment, alien armies scattering before perfect Caldari formations, entire populations kneeling in submission. The message was clear. Resistance was both futile and fatal. After the transmission ended, the United Earth Defense Council convened immediately. Representatives from every nation gathered in the underground chamber beneath the headquarters. "We should surrender immediately," argued the representative from Brazil. "You've seen their technology, their numbers. We cannot win this war." "And become slaves," countered the representative from Kenya. "Look at those worlds they showed us. They're not protectorates. They're harvest planets." The debate raged for hours. Maya remained quiet, studying the tactical data from the Caldari fleet. Something about their perfect formations bothered her. Something about their flawless record seemed suspicious. "Commander Chen," the council chair finally said, "you've been studying potential extraterrestrial threats longer than anyone. What's your assessment?" Maya stood and approached the central display. "The Caldari are formidable, yes. Their technology exceeds ours. But I've been analyzing the footage they sent, and there's something strange about how they fight." She enhanced various segments of the battle recordings. "Look at their formations. Perfect symmetry, never breaking pattern. Look at their ground troops. They advance in lockstep, never adapting to terrain. It's as if..." "As if what, Commander?" prompted the chair. "As if they've never faced real resistance," Maya finished. "They fight like a force that's never had to adapt, never had to improvise. Every conquest we saw was against a civilization that surrendered quickly. What happens when they face an enemy that doesn't follow the script?" General Hassan from the Pan-African Defense Force nodded slowly. "Humans have been fighting each other for millennia. We understand asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, psychological combat. The Caldari may have superior technology, but warfare isn't just about technology." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Could humanity's bloody history actually be an advantage? We need more information, Maya continued. But my recommendation is that we don't surrender. Not yet. We make them fight for every inch of our world, but not how they expect us to fight. When the vote came, it was not unanimous, but the decision was made. Earth would resist, not with a conventional defense that would play to Keldary's strengths, but with humanity's chaotic, adaptable nature. Maya drafted the response herself. Standing before the transmission array, she straightened her uniform and looked directly into the camera. Admiral Vexus, I am Commander Maya Chen of Earth Defense Command. We have received your ultimatum and considered your terms. She paused, letting the tension build. We respectfully decline. Earth belongs to humanity, and we will defend our home. On the bridge of the unconquerable, Admiral Vexus's secondary eyelids blinked in surprise. This was not expected. This was not how conquests began. They refused. He asked his communications officer. Yes, Admiral. They have activated their defensive systems, but have issued no counter-threats. Vexus's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of confusion among his kind. In 17 campaigns, no species had ever simply refused. They either surrendered immediately or made grand threats before attempting a conventional defense that the Keldari methodically crushed. Begin the standard opening assault, he ordered after regaining his composure. Target their military installations and power generation facilities. Phase 1 bombardment pattern. As the Keldari fleet moved into Earth orbit, their weapons charged with blue energy, the perfectly choreographed attack began, exactly as it had on 17 other worlds. Precision strikes targeted military bases, power plants, and communication hubs around the globe. But Earth's response was anything but standard. Instead of centralizing their counterattack, Earth forces scattered. Instead of launching their primary weapons, they held back. Small, stealthy craft launched from hidden facilities. Civilian communications networks suddenly carried military traffic in encrypted bursts. Defense installations that should have been priority targets turned out to be elaborate decoys. In Lagos, Captain Elijah Okafor led his Special Forces team through underground tunnels as Keldari ships bombarded the military base above. According to all Keldari intelligence, they had just neutralized Nigeria's primary defense command. In reality, Elijah and his team were uploading false tactical data to attract Keldari attention, while the real operations continued from mobile platforms in the countryside. Similar scenes played out across the planet. The Keldari targeted what they believed were critical infrastructure nodes, only to discover they were destroying empty buildings or automated systems designed to look important. Sir, I'm detecting anomalies in the bombardment effectiveness reports, announced the Keldari tactical officer, his scales shifting to an anxious blue-green. The humans' communication should have been reduced by 80%, but we're detecting only a 30% decrease. Admiral Vexus leaned forward in his command chair. Impossible. Increase the precision of our scans. They must be using backup systems we haven't identified. 3 days into what should have been a routine conquest, the Keldari launched their first ground forces. Dropships descended on strategic locations around the planet, carrying elite troops in powered armor. They landed in perfect formation, advanced in perfect lines, and followed their combat protocols to the letter. They weren't prepared for what awaited them. In the ruins of Seoul, Keldari troops marched down the abandoned streets in precise rows of 5. Their sensors detected no enemies. Their tactical displays showed no resistance. Then the street beneath them collapsed, not from explosives, but from deliberately weakened infrastructure that had been waiting for their exact weight. As they recovered from the fall, they were attacked not by military forces, but by civilians using improvised weapons and disappearing into hidden passages before the Keldari could organize a response. In the Amazon, Keldari troops found their communications jammed by devices that shouldn't have had enough power to affect their advanced technology. When they switched to backup systems, they discovered the frequencies filled with human music. loud, chaotic sounds that their sensitive auditory systems found profoundly disorienting. In Russia, their drop ships landed on what appeared to be solid ground, only to sink into carefully disguised bogs. By the time they extracted themselves, the human forces had vanished, leaving behind only automated drones that led the Keldari on frustrating pursuits through the harsh terrain. On the Unconquerable, Admiral Vexus received increasingly concerning reports. The bridge, once a model of quiet efficiency, now buzzed with confused communications. "Sir, ground forces in Sector 7 report they are under attack, but cannot locate the enemy. 3rd Battalion is requesting new orders. Their advance route has been compromised by environmental manipulation. The humans are using civilian communications networks to coordinate. We cannot distinguish military from non-military targets." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vexus felt a sensation he couldn't immediately identify. It took him several moments to recognize it as unease. "This is not proceeding according to established protocols," he finally said, his voice lower than usual. "The humans are not fighting correctly." His executive officer, Commander Selvin, approached cautiously. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their tactics. They're not trying to win in the conventional sense. They're deliberately avoiding direct confrontation while maximizing our resource expenditure. That is not warfare," Vexus insisted. "That is trickery." "Sir," Selvin continued hesitantly, "our troops are reporting difficulties adapting to human tactics. Some units are experiencing confusion." The word hung in the air like a toxic gas. Confusion was not part of Keldari military doctrine. Their warriors followed precise protocols developed over centuries of successful conquests. They did not improvise because they had never needed to improvise. As the first week of the invasion concluded, Maya Chen stood in the underground command center, reviewing the reports from around the world. The holographic map showed Keldari positions in red, Earth forces in blue. But unlike traditional conflicts, there were no clear front lines, no territories clearly held. Instead, there was a chaotic patchwork of engagement zones, temporary occupations, and constantly shifting control. "It's working," General Hassan said as he joined her. "They don't know how to respond to our tactics." Maya nodded, but her expression remained grave. "For now, but we've only survived the first wave. They'll adapt eventually." "Perhaps," the general acknowledged. "But adaptation isn't their strength, and every day we resist gives us more information about how they fight." He pointed to a data stream showing captured Keldari equipment being analyzed in underground labs around the world. "We're learning their technology, their biology, their psychology." Maya turned to the Psychological Warfare Division's report. "That's where we'll win this," she said quietly. "Not with weapons, but with their minds." The report showed something remarkable. Keldari troops were exhibiting signs of extreme stress after just 1 week of combat. Their neural patterns, captured by covert scanning, showed increasing disorganization. Some had become non-responsive, others irrationally aggressive. They'd never experienced prolonged resistance, Maya realized aloud. Their minds aren't prepared for it. On the bridge of the Unconquerable, Admiral Vexus stared at the holographic display of Earth, its surface now marked with thousands of small conflict points, rather than the neat pattern of submission he had expected. "This cannot continue," he said finally. "Prepare for full orbital bombardment. We will reduce their major population centers to ash." Commander Selvin hesitated. "Admiral, our protocols specify graduated response to preserve resource value." "I am aware of the protocols," Vexus snapped, his scales flushing deep crimson. "But these humans are not following protocols. Therefore, neither shall we." As the Keldari fleet repositioned for mass destruction, they didn't notice the small stealth craft approaching the Unconquerable's ventral section. On board, a team of Earth's best engineers and hackers prepared to attempt something no conquered species had ever tried: boarding the Keldari flagship. The first phase of humanity's real counterattack was about to begin. The human factor. Elijah Okafor crouched in the rubble of what had once been Lagos University's engineering building. Through his tactical visor, he watched 4 Kildare soldiers patrol the street below. They moved in perfect synchronization, weapons held at identical angles, scanning in a predetermined pattern that never varied. 2 weeks ago, this precision had seemed terrifying. Now, it was a weakness his resistance cell exploited daily. "Ready the sound system," he whispered into his communications unit. Around the ruined city, hidden speakers powered up. The Kildare had destroyed all major broadcasting facilities in their first attack, never imagining that humans would have prepared thousands of small, independent systems hidden in the infrastructure. The sound began softly at first, irregular drumbeats that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The Kildare patrol stopped, their triangular heads turning in confusion as they tried to locate the source. Then came discordant whistles, changing pitch randomly, followed by human voices calling out from different directions. None of it was threatening, just chaotic and unpredictable. The effect on the Kildare was immediate. Their perfect formation dissolved as each soldier turned toward a different sound. Their movements became jerky, uncoordinated. One dropped to a crouch, covering the auditory slits on the sides of its head with its secondary arms. "They really can't handle chaos, can they?" observed Lieutenant Adebayo, the Psi Elijah. "Their entire evolution and society is built on order," Elijah replied, remembering the briefings from command. They've never needed to adapt to unpredictability. As the sound pattern intensified, one of the Kildare soldiers fired randomly into an empty building. Another began spinning in place, its weapon waving dangerously. The patrol commander was frantically calling for extraction on its communication device. "Now," Elijah ordered. His team moved silently through the rubble, approaching from multiple angles. They weren't trying to kill the disoriented aliens that would trigger reinforcements. Instead, they planted small devices on the Kildare combat suits, tagging them with trackers and passive data collectors that would reveal more about Kildare technology and biology. 4 minutes later, Elijah's team had disappeared back into the ruins as a Kildare transport descended to retrieve the patrol. From their hidden position, they watched as the affected soldiers were led into the vessel, several barely able to walk on their own. "That's the 3rd patrol this week that's completely broken down," Adebayo noted. "Whatever they are, they weren't built for this kind of fight." Elijah nodded, uploading the operation data to the resistance network. Similar scenes were playing out across every continent, not just military resistance, but psychological warfare specifically designed to exploit the rigid Kildare psychology. Earth wasn't trying to win battles. They were breaking the enemy's mind. Thousands of kilometers above, on the Kildare flagship Unconquerable, Admiral Vexus reviewed the latest medical reports with growing concern. The statistics were unprecedented in Kildare military history. 40% of ground forces showing neurological impairment. He read incredulously. 30% refusing to return to planetary surface. What is happening to my warriors? The ship's chief medical officer, Dr. Lixian, shifted uncomfortably. Her smaller stature and paler scales marked her as from the scientific caste rather than the warrior elite. "Admiral, we're observing a condition we've never documented before," she explained. "The soldiers' neural patterns show extreme stress responses. They cannot process the humans' tactics. The unpredictability, the constant changes, the sensory manipulation, it's overwhelming their cognitive functions." "That's absurd," Vexus dismissed. "Kildare warriors are the pinnacle of fighting perfection. They cannot be overwhelmed by primitive tactics." "With respect, Admiral," Lixian continued carefully, "Kildare neurophysiology evolved for precision and order. Our ancestors survived by perfect cooperation and predictable behavior patterns. We've never needed to develop mental defenses against chaos because our dominance has always been absolute and immediate." Commander Selvin stepped forward. "Sir, I've been reviewing our conquest history. In all previous campaigns, resistance collapsed within days. Our warriors have never experienced extended conflict." "Are you suggesting," Vexus said slowly, his scales darkening with anger, "that humans have a mental advantage over us?" Neither officer answered immediately, which was answer enough. At Earth Defense Command, Maya Chen led a team of scientists analyzing data collected from Caldari encounters around the globe. The holographic display showed neural scans, biological readings, and behavioral patterns compiled from thousands of interactions. "It's remarkable," said Dr. Caffrey, the xenobiologist. "Their entire neurological system is optimized for pattern recognition and execution. They're essentially living computers, incredibly efficient when variables remain within expected parameters, but introduce too many unexpected variables," Maya prompted. "And their systems begin to fail," Chatri confirmed. "They experience something similar to what humans would call a panic attack, but more severe. Their brains literally cannot process information that doesn't fit their established patterns." General Hassan, who had joined the analysis session, leaned forward. "So the chaos of human warfare, our adaptability, our improvisation, is like a virus attacking their operating system," Maya finished. "They don't just find it tactically challenging. It's psychologically devastating." The discovery transformed Earth's resistance strategy. Rather than focusing solely on military objectives, every operation now prioritized creating maximum psychological impact on the Caldari. Cities under occupation installed hidden systems that played random sounds at unpredictable intervals. Resistance fighters never attacked the same way twice. Communications used constantly shifting frequencies and patterns that Caldari systems couldn't predict. 3 weeks into the invasion, the perfect geometric formations of the Caldari fleet began to show signs of disorder. Ships drifted slightly out of alignment. Response times to commands increased. The meticulously coordinated attack patterns became hesitant. On the ground, the effects were even more dramatic. In Moscow, an entire Caldari battalion refused to leave their secure base. In Cape Town, a patrol opened fire on shadows, wasting ammunition on nothing. In Los Angeles, 3 Caldari commanders requested extraction after experiencing what they described as reality distortion, unable to trust their own sensory input in the face of human psychological tactics. Maya recognized the opportunity. "It's time for Phase 2, she announced to the Earth Defense Council. "We've destabilized them. Now we need to get inside their command structure." The plan was audacious. Using data collected from captured Caldari technology, Earth engineers had created a stealth vessel capable of approaching the unconquerable undetected. A small team would infiltrate the flagship, access its central database, and plant a specialized virus designed to exploit the Caldari dependence on order and pattern. Maya insisted on leading the mission herself. "I've studied them longer than anyone," she argued when the council objected. "I'll recognize valuable information that others might miss." The infiltration team consisted of 6 specialists: Maya, 2 systems engineers, a xenolinguist, and 2 special forces operators, including Elijah Okafor, whose success in psychological operations against the Caldari had made him legendary among resistance fighters. Their ship launched from a hidden facility in Antarctica, its hull coated with materials that absorbed Caldari scanning frequencies. As they approached the massive flagship, Maya felt a strange calm despite the mission's dangers. Whether they succeeded or died, humanity had already proven itself more resilient than the Caldari ever imagined. "Approaching target," reported Captain Diaz at the controls. "Their patrol pattern has a 3-minute gap we can exploit." Now, the small craft slipped between the massive Caldari vessels, taking advantage of their increasingly erratic patrol patterns. They reached the Unconquerable's ventral maintenance access, a vulnerability identified from analyzed Caldari schematics. "Remember," Maya told the team as they prepared to board, "we're not here to fight. We're here to access their central database and deploy the cognitive virus, in and out quietly." Using tools designed to interface with Caldari technology, they bypassed the outer security systems and entered the massive ship. The interior was starkly geometric. all straight lines and perfect angles, with a blue-green bioluminescence providing light. They moved through maintenance corridors, avoiding patrols guided by the ship schematics they had reconstructed. Their design philosophy is revealing, Maya whispered as they moved. No redundancy, no variation. Everything serves a single purpose in the most efficient way possible. Beautiful but fragile, Elijah replied. Like a crystal that shatters if struck at the right point. They'd reached a secondary data access terminal without encountering resistance. The ship seemed to be operating with minimal internal security. The Caldari had never needed to fear infiltration before. Dr. Sato, their systems engineer, connected their devices to the Caldari interface. "I'm in," she said after a tense minute. "Their security is sophisticated but rigid. Exactly what we expected." As Sato worked to download critical data and upload their virus, Maya and Elijah explored a nearby section that appeared to be a biological research lab. Inside, they found something unexpected. These are historical records, Maya realized, examining the alien symbols she'd learned to read. Not just of their conquests, but their evolution. The displays showed the Caldari homeworld, a planet of geometric natural formations and predictable weather patterns. Their evolution had never required them to adapt to chaos or unpredictability. Their society had developed in perfect, logical progression, with each technological advancement building precisely on the last. They never experienced the random cruelty of nature that shaped human resilience, Maya said softly. No ice ages, no sudden extinctions, no catastrophic climate shifts. They never needed to overcome trauma or rebuild from destruction. They never learned how to bend without breaking, Elijah added. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship, not because they'd been discovered, but because their virus had begun its work. Throughout the unconquerable, systems began displaying contradictory information. Communications carried multiple conflicting orders simultaneously. Environmental controls created unpredictable variations in temperature, lighting, and artificial gravity. "Time to go," Maya ordered, but as they turned to leave, they found themselves facing Admiral Vexus himself, flanked by armed guards. "Humans," the Admiral said, his voice a mixture of anger and something else, something that sounded almost like fear. "You dare to board my flagship?" Maya stepped forward. "Admiral Vexus, I am Commander Maya Chen of Earth Defense." "I know who you are," Vexus replied. "The architect of this chaos." He spat the word like a curse. "Not chaos," Maya corrected. "Adaptation. The quality your species never needed to develop." The ship lurched slightly as the virus spread through critical systems. The lights flickered in random patterns. Even the guards seemed disturbed by the unpredictability, their perfect stance wavering. "What have you done?" Vexus demanded. "Created an environment of uncertainty," Maya explained calmly. "Your systems will continue functioning, but not in ways you can predict. Just like fighting humans." "You think this will defeat us?" Vexus challenged, though his secondary arms had begun to tremble slightly, a sign of neural stress Maya had learned to recognize. "No," Maya replied. "I think it will teach you. Admiral, we've studied your biology, your history. You're not evil conquerors. You're simply a species that never learned to handle the unexpected. But you can learn." The ship shuddered again. Commander Selvin rushed in, clearly distressed. "Admiral, the virus is spreading to the fleet. Crew members are reporting cognitive disruption throughout all vessels." Maya continued, sensing her opportunity. "You have two choices, Admiral. Continue this invasion and watch your entire military collapse from psychological breakdown, or withdraw and learn from this experience." "Learn?" Vexus repeated, the concept seemingly foreign in this context. "Yes. Learning requires facing the unknown, embracing uncertainty. Humans mastered this through millennia of suffering and adaptation. We could teach you instead of fighting you." For several long moments, Admiral Vexus stood motionless, his scales shifting through colors as conflicting thoughts battled in his mind. Finally, he spoke. You could have destroyed this ship while you were undetected. Why didn't you? Because extinction isn't our goal, Maya answered. Understanding is. 2 days later, the Keldari fleet began withdrawing from Earth orbit, not in defeat, as Admiral Vexus insisted to his superiors, but in strategic reassessment. The official report to the Keldari High Command described Earth as requiring specialized approach methodologies beyond standard conquest protocols. In the Geneva headquarters, Maya watched the alien ships depart on the holographic display. Beside her, Elijah Okafor and the Earth Defense Council observed in silence. "Will they return?" asked the council chair eventually. "Yes," Maya nodded, "but not as conquerors. They're too curious now. We've introduced something new into their perfect, predictable universe, a species that thrives in chaos. They'll want to understand how. And we'll be waiting," Elijah said, "with much more to teach them about being human." As the last Keldari ship vanished from Earth's sensors, humanity began the process of rebuilding. But unlike the 17 worlds before them, they did so not as a conquered people, but as the first species ever to show the Keldari dominion that perfection had its limits. That in the chaotic crucible of unpredictability, human adaptability had forged something the mathematically perfect Keldari had never developed: resilience. And in the vast darkness of space, aboard the Unconquerable, Admiral Vexus stood alone on his bridge, watching the blue-green world recede. For the first time in his long career, he faced a sensation entirely new to his kind: uncertainty about the future. And beneath that discomfort, something even more alien to the Keldari mind was taking root: curiosity about what other lessons these unpredictable humans might teach the galaxy.